Hello and welcome to The Long Play, where we listen to some of the world's greatest albums. It's a little bit like a book club, but there's no books. Hi, Paul.
Hey, Tom. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, mate. Yeah, getting there. I feel like I've said that quite a lot when people say, how are you? I say, getting there.
Yeah.
And it's become a bit of a sort of catchphrase.
Well, you've been working hard recently, haven't you?
Yeah, it does. I think it does feel like that. I always find that autumn does feel a bit like you're just sort of it's a bit of a creaky month.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit damp.
And it's evening here. We're recording in the evening.
This is unusual for us.
Yeah, unusual. So instead of a coffee in hand, we've got a non-alcoholic beer in hand whilst we're recording.
Yeah, at least that's what you think. Yeah, it's very nice. It's very nice. Who is it? Who is this?
This is Athletic Brew, I think, this one.
Right, yeah, I like it. Very good. I always find non-alcoholic beer to be a bit of a it feels like it's missing the bit that it feels like it's missing the taste of the bit.
Yeah.
That is important.
Yeah.
But it's getting better on the whole.
Better and better. Absolutely.
Yeah. We're a big fan of Adnam as well.
Yeah, so we're a bit later this month recording the episode, aren't we? You know, I've been away on holiday. You've been squirreled away in the studio working on your secret project.
Yes, which I'm not allowed to talk about, but hopefully at some point I will be able to.
Yeah.
Which will be probably sometime in the new year. But yeah, been in the studio this week, which has been great. But yes, it's rendered us unable to get together to talk about this month's album, which is
Kid A by Radiohead.
And it's been great.
Yeah. I mean, no spoilers to say. I absolutely loved it, and I think I might be gushing about it in this review. Yeah, which. We can get into it, but I didn't necessarily expect it. But this week, actually, there was like a thread on Substack. Subscribe if you're not already. And somebody somebody was asking for your top 10 albums, and I mean it's a thankless task, and it changes on a kind of daily basis. But Kid A made it into that list.
Right.
It's right up there.
Amazing. He made it into yours?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It really is an album that I think I will cherish for a long time. Yeah.
Well, dare I say, that's what we're here for.
Well, that's exactly what we're here for. You know, I think the Radiohead is a good example of our concept of the long play, that you kind of might have a preconception or, just think maybe something's not for you. But if you spend long enough with a classic album, you might unlock something. And I feel like I have with Radiohead. I get it now.
Great.
I get why people are so obsessed by them.
Yes, me too. But maybe, because we've had an uptick in the subscriptions on Substack. Yeah. Maybe we should just say a quick hello to everybody who's subscribed recently. Anyone who's new here, welcome. Welcome to The Long Play, where we talk a little bit about albums we've been listening to for a month. We listen to a new one every month, and Paul sends out some great emails.
Yep, at the start of the month, an email called The Revolution, which is just telling you that the new episode is coming out, and announcing what the album for the following month is, and then in the middle of the month, the mid-month missives. Which gives you links and content and background to that month's album. So we tend to listen to the album at the start of the month fairly raw and unfiltered, but then it's always useful to read a few reviews a bit later on, or watch some videos with some criticism or give some context. And certainly that's what we've been doing this month. I ended up, despite the fact that the podcast's catchphrase is, it's like a book club, but there's no books.
You've been remiss in your...
I read 2 books about Kid A this month.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so...
Can you tell us a quick sort of breakdown of what they were and are? If people should read them?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, one of them was from the series 33 and a Third.
The same one you read for the Songs in Key of Life.
Yeah, exactly. And... I've got a number of those books, and they're kind of really good. They give some context. But the other one, and I'm just looking up the author, so that I can give you a bit more of the.
We'll cut all this out.
Yeah. You'd think I'd be able to find my orders on Amazon, but maybe I didn't even
Wouldn't
order it on
Google
Amazon.
of the name of the book get you there?
Yeah, it probably would.
This is what the people came for.
It is what the people came for. Problem is, Kid A book just gets you. Here we go. Gets you kids' books. But we're here. It was by Stephen Hayden. It's called This Isn't Happening. Radiohead's Kid A and the Beginning of the 21st Century. And I think I said in the mid-month missives, I found it a little bit. I think it's a great book, actually. I would recommend it to say, but I did find it a bit almost depressing. I think it takes a very pessimistic look at the 21st century. I think, and I did pose the question: is Kid A an album for pessimists? You know, it's a very kind of angst-filled album, and I think Stephen Hayden's interpretation is Radiohead saw all of this crap coming, and here it is now. You know, it was kind of, and whilst there's plenty of things to that that's absolutely true for. I tend to fall a bit more on the side of the optimist, so that was kind of the chat. But I thought it was an excellent book.
But the general feel around the late 90s about the millennium was quite pessimistic.
Yeah, and I think Radiohead absolutely captured the zeitgeist. And this album is, as I say, kind of angst-ridden, and it's addressing the challenges that we have, around climate change or technology. All of those things are in there. So Radiohead were definitely talking about these things. And I think the summary of the book is Radiohead were predicting these things would come to pass, and then it all went to shit, and that's true. But also, there's another side to all of those things.
Sure.
Yeah.
But let's get into it. Let's talk about the album.
Yeah.
How was your initial experience?
I liked it immediately, actually, and I think there's a view that this was a very weird album. It certainly was received as such when it was released.
I thought it was quite strange on the outset. Walking in, I was a bit like, there's parts of it which really do feel like quite an assault on the ears. I'm looking at you, end of the national anthem. It's quite full on in places.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. The end of the national anthem was a challenge on the first listen, but I quickly got to it. So I don't think...
sax part, as it comes out and goes into a slightly more sort of freeform, section.
Yeah.
It's really great. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's got a real bop to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are sections of it that do have a tiny bit more of a tougher angle, but there's other parts of it that have got so much beauty. Like, I think across the whole album, one of the things that I really felt was the massive sense of tension and release.
Yeah.
In How to Disappear Completely, is it?
Yeah.
How long it makes you wait for that resolution right at the end when it falls to the major chord. Like, it just keeps and holds and holds and holds and holds and then releases. And it kind of does that the whole way across the album. Track to track, like there'll be two tracks of like really quite intense feels and then one really soft one, and they're interspersed, and at least that's what I felt, that it was a lot of that.
Definitely, and actually the thing for me is that the album's so coherent, it just holds together. I think it just feels like a full album, and it's an album that is kind of singular in its outlook, if you like, but also, it just works as a whole album. Absolutely, I think there isn't a bad track amongst them, and that really helps.
I totally agree. Yeah, I think there's. I mean, we talked about just before we came on to record that we were talking about the sort of the story behind the album and how it's a sort of reflection on how people were feeling in the sort of late 90s about the millennium, about what was ahead, and I felt quite early on that this very much felt like the soundtrack to something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because maybe I try and hear soundtracks in a lot of things, but I looked at the whole album after probably about 3 weeks as like almost the journey of this kid A. Like the second track, for example, like say for example, I'm really sort of clutching at straws here to make my.
That's very much our brand, Tom.
Yeah, well, to make my theory stand up. Like the beginning, like with the garbled language right at the front.
Yeah.
Like I was like to my ears, I was like, God, couldn't this be someone learning to talk? You know,
yeah.
Like with the sort of the use of the sort of spliced vocal, and then in the second track, we open on what sounds like a mobile above a baby's crib.
Yeah.
And then you get sort of 5 tracks in after you get past what I would consider to be the terrible twos in the national anthem. But then you go through this sort of like this series of adolescence, which is this sort of raging against the world and trying to understand it all. And then this sort of sense of harmony on the back end, you know, for the last 2 tracks.
Yeah.
You there's a lot more peace in those tracks, I think, in kind of where it's got to. So I did start to see this sort of journey, and I don't know how much of it, you know, was ever intended or if I've literally just sort of pulled it out of thin air. But I started to really make sense of it in my head in that way.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't, feel that interpretation, but absolutely, it feels like, as you say, a soundtrack. And in fact, everything in its right place was used in Vanilla Sky, the movie, and so they're definitely cinematic in their outlook. And I genuinely think that Radiohead, for me, they seem to have it like be able to have their cake and eat it. In that they can be very kind of obscure, if you like, and hide their meaning under many levels. It's not blatant, their meaning, but often, sometimes it just feels kind of almost trite, some of the lyrics, and yet people will study them and dive into them. This seems to be Radiohead's whole career seems to be, criticizing the, recording industry, but working inside it, Tom's lyrics here, just there's lots of cut up and almost throwaway lines, but there's like so much meaning in them, that it warrants analysis
as well.
And this album, it's their experimental album. No leads, no singles, no videos, and yet commercially a big success. They generally can have their cake and eat it. It's amazing to witness how they can play the game whilst pretending not to play, or well, not even pretending, to some degree, actually not playing the game.
But isn't that the trick?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that, like, you get a lot of people who do try to do that and it doesn't work.
Yeah. And
maybe in the absence, I mean, maybe they're have absolutely nailed the whole sort of PR on it all, and it just, maybe it's just kind of worked. But I feel like, there's just such a sort of dedication to the craft and dedication to the story that they want to tell, that they're not looking at everything else around it, kind of going, oh, we've got to do a single because everybody's doing singles.
Yeah.
We've got to do a video because we're just coming out of the 90s. There's loads of money in music videos at the moment.
Yeah.
No, they're not doing that. They're just so focused on the art. And I've always felt that about Tom York.
Yeah. But then, famously they appeared on MTV Beach House and like rocked out. They can get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's is amazing. But more, as I said right at the top, I didn't really get Radiohead. Interesting. I was listening to a podcast. I was listening to Russell Howard's Wonderbox just yesterday. It's a good podcast, and he was talking about like being late to the party on something. He said, "Oh, it's like in 2006 when you said to your mates, oh, Radiohead are good, aren't they?" And your mate said, "Duh, I've been telling you this forever." Well, here we are in 2024, and I'm like, oh, Radiohead are good, aren't they? Imagine being this late to the party.
I feel like when I was a teenager, you were either in the Radiohead camp or you were in the Muse camp. I don't know if I said this. When
I don't remember. Yeah.
Oh, well,
so the listeners won't remember. So crack on, Tom. You crack on.
I feel like although OK Computer was the first album I ever bought, I do feel like I was very much in the Muse camp when I was in my teenage years.
Right.
I felt like, as much as I loved OK Computer, I didn't do much listening. I mean, back then you had to have the CD.
Yeah.
If you didn't have the CD, it wasn't, it wasn't like now, where you can just go, I'll have a bit of that.
Yeah.
I played guitar with a friend who had the Bends, and I remember him, harping on and on about that, how great that album was.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I must have overheard someone saying, if you're either Muse or you're Radiohead, and I was like, no, I'm in the Muse camp, man. So I don't think I sort of paid as much attention, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I always just thought that they weren't really, for me, a bit too rock, a bit too whiny, and Tom, that like initial impression is that it can be a bit whiny, but I love Tom's voice on all of this.
Yes, I agree.
His vocal performances are great, and of course, things like the track Kid A. It's not really his voice. Almost he's talking, and they're pitch shifting it, and but the vocals on this are fabulous, and I absolutely love it, and will happily go back and listen to this. And I'm a Radiohead fan now. I'm a convert all these years on. Finally,
you've heard it here first.
Finally,
Paul Smith is a Radiohead fan.
Yeah. So, what were your favourite tracks, Tom?
My favourite tracks, Optimistic.
Yeah.
How to Disappear Completely. I really like Morning Bell as well, actually. I like all the softer ones.
Oh, there's the pod dog in the background, if you can hear. That's
our alarm telling us we need to do what happened in 2000.
It's good to have a producer in the house, isn't it?
And I also very much liked Everything in Its Right Place. So the soft ones were the ones for me. I quite like Tree Fingers as well. A bit unusual.
Yeah.
But then I look at the track listing. I'm like, Idiotech as well, and In Limbo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of them, in summary.
Yeah, all of them.
But good reminder. Thank you to the pod dog for shouting out that we need to.
I'll produce them.
That we need to talk about what happened in 2000. In fact, this month, I've got the list up. So
let's have it.
Well, I mean, I guess very timely given where we are here in November 2024. George Bush won the US presidential election after that very long kind of recount and court legal battle for Florida and beat out Al Gore. So, it, as I say, timely for this time of year. The Sydney Olympics.
Sure.
Really excellent.
I remember the Sydney Olympics.
Yeah. Euro 2000, and France actually became the only World Cup holders to win the Euro Championships.
Right.
That year, because obviously they'd won
the 98.
France 98. Exactly. And Eminem released Marshall Mathers, becoming the fastest selling rap album of all time.
Right.
At that time.
I wonder what fastest selling kind of means. Like fastest selling to what? Like there's got to be a number that they've got to hit.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
It's not like sort of because when they say the fastest selling stadium tour, there's a finite number.
Yeah.
Maybe they've said fastest person in the door to buy the first disc.
Yeah.
Everybody at Tower Records killing each other.
And who do you think won the Premier League
in 2000?
Yeah,
Man United.
Yeah, who won the FA Cup?
In 2000.
Yeah.
Wasn't Chelsea Football Club?
It was Chelsea Football Club, exactly.
Very much.
Exactly. In fact...
did they play Leeds?
Oh, I don't know, actually. Let's have a look.
I think my dad went to the final.
Yeah, and actually, so whilst your team were winning the FA Cup, my team, Stoke City, were winning the EFL trophy that year.
There you go.
Yeah, so not quite as glamorous as the FA Cup, but it was a winning year. So so it was the last to be played at the old Wembley Stadium.
Yeah, my dad went.
Yeah,
we've got the tickets,
and it was Villa.
Villa, that was it.
Yeah.
We've got the tickets in like perspex frame for the last game before they knocked it down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Magic.
There you go.
Good memories. Well, I didn't go, so not my memories. And there you have it. That's what happened in 2000.
There you go.
So, I mean, I wanted to just spend a moment gushing about the sound design on this album. I think that was kind of my hook in. Like that's what I like. The amount of like just how much time you could spend scrutinizing over the soundscapes that they build in the quieter gaps, like in between the tracks, where they just leave the sort of the space, like the amount of like imperfections. And there's like one bit when they do a mad thing with the changing the speed of the delay. I can't remember the end of which track it is. You can hear it sort of like speed up and slow down. I don't know whether they've cut that to tape and then changed the speed of the tape, or whether it's a delay. I think it was a delay, but yeah, there's so much going on. They're clearly, really flexing in that department. Like with it being an experimental album, I guess they've got much more opportunity to kind of do that sort of stuff. But yeah, I just found myself really enjoying and reveling in the sound design on the album.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm less technical than you by some measure.
Well,
so I don't necessarily see the studio craft or the musicianship in the same way that you do. However, what I feel is just a whole sense of depth in this album.
Yeah.
That there is so much to discover in little moments it's just packed. With brilliant moments all the way through, and things that I just haven't even discovered yet. I'm sure. Yeah, I really love the little kind of drumstick taps on Kid A. It's like a perfect moment of I think the drums on Kid A actually is great.
I feel like the drum is always the sort of unsung hero of Radiohead, because you always talk about Johnny Greenwood, Ed O'Brien, Tom York.
Yeah.
But then like I remember watching I think they were playing Glastonbury a couple of years back, and it showed a shot of the drummer, and I was like, oh, I've got absolutely no idea who the drummer is in Radiohead. But obviously, a really sort of crucial part of the band, and big shout out to the drummer, I think is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I really enjoy music that is maybe unsettling, maybe even.
I really enjoy music that is unsettling.
Yeah, or miserable, like sad music in certain ways.
I love melancholy music.
And there's quite a bit on this. In fact, I've never known the pod dog be unsettled by music before, but you put this on in the car and all of a sudden he's a bit kind of, I don't know if it's a coincidence that I'm just reading too much into it, but it definitely felt like he was unsettled by it when we put it on in the car. Yeah. And I do think it's not, I think I could relax to this album now, but it's not a relaxing album.
It's not easy listening, is it? It forces you to pay attention. And I think, with the content of what they're talking about, or at least, what they alluded to when they were talking about the album, about climate change, like they want you to sit up and listen. So I think they've done a good job in that regard.
Yeah.
But, so it's been a good month.
Yeah, it absolutely has.
You've enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah, a million times over. As I say, it whether in a few years' time, if somebody asked me what my top 10 albums are, this is still there, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think it just happened to be top of mind at that time. These things are, ever changing, but it wouldn't be surprising to find.
Yeah,
that
I
this
feel
is,
like I'm not done with this one.
No.
Yet. Similar to how I felt about Kate Bush.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna spend a bit more time digging in.
Yeah, I feel like there were parallels with Kate Bush for me on this.
Right.
Just some of maybe it's that cinematic feel, but the and the fact that the album just holds together and has that kind of depth, and there's interesting things to find in it.
Yeah.
I know, and it's experimental. Actually, a lot of it was just trying to see what sounds you could make with technology. Yeah.
So tell us, how many Paul Smiths does it get?
I think I'm giving this a 10. Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. I gave it a 9.
Yeah.
Because I'm very nervous about giving things 10s.
Well, you felt my hesitancy there, but if I don't give this a 10, I don't know what I'll be doing. Yeah.
I wrote 10 and then did a slash and wrote a 9 next to it. But I did hover. But I think I'm. Yeah, it's a 9.
I can't think of a weakness.
I don't think I can think of a weakness, but are there bits that I find harder? A bit like, I know I referenced earlier already. It's the aggression in the national anthem.
Yeah.
I think when it's on, like there's moments of it that I'm really digging, and there's other bits where I'm just like, all right, I've listened to this a lot this month.
Right.
I could do, get to the next one.
Yeah. Fair enough. Enough.
That's why it's 9, and that's only. I mean, that's only when today I listened to it twice and repeat, and that says something about a piece of music, I reckon. But there we have it. That was Kid A. That was our take on Kid A. But next month we're doing something a bit different. We put it out to you, the listeners, what we should listen to this month, and we did a poll.
Yeah,
what
we
was
did.
On the poll?
Yeah, we had a poll of 5 albums, all chosen by Substack subscribers.
What were they? They were The Doors.
The Doors. Hajira, Joni Mitchell.
Right.
What else was in there?
Traffic then, but that's not what I mean.
No. Here we go. I am about to tell you. The Kinks.
Oh, yeah.
The Village Green Preservation Society. And George Harrison, All Things Must Pass. Actually, The Doors got 0 votes.
Did it?
Yeah. So, but the winner, which I haven't mentioned yet, was Marquee Moon by Television. And that's what we'll be listening to next month.
Have you listened to it yet?
I haven't. Oh, no, I did. I had a quick listen in the car, but I haven't formed any sort of opinion or attachment yet.
Well, I've listened to it twice.
Ah, great.
But I shan't tell you what I think yet, because that would be, putting out content too early. So that's what we're going to be doing this month. So
we'll be back with the intro episode.
In a month's time?
No, the intro episode will be out imminently.
Oh, yeah.
Straight after this.
We've got to record it next.
Exactly, Tom. Come on, keep up.
Sorry.
And then, in a month's time, we'll be with the review. But in the meantime, please subscribe to our newsletters on Substack. So
come find us on the Substack.
Yeah, where we'll then be sending out a mid-month missive for Marquee Moon. You can find us on Substack at thelongplaypod.substack.com.
Surely you can go on Substack and search us, right?
You can, absolutely. Yeah. And, of course, as ever, the links will be in the show notes.
Yeah. Come and find us on Instagram. Send us pictures of you listening to... I wonder where the furthest place from Yorkshire could be that we get sent a photo of people listening to this month's album.
That would be good.
That'd be fun, because you sent one... Well, you posted on our Instagram this month of you in...
I've been in Cyprus. That's quite
Cyprus,
it's a
Canada, does beat Cyprus.
It does. Yeah.
So,
but let's see if we can go
your
further.
Game, Paul.
Sorry.
So yes, if you're listening to the pod in somewhere far flung, send us a picture of where you are.
Yeah.
And we'll share it on our socials.
You can find us on our socials. We are at the Long Play Pod on Instagram, and you can find us on our website, thelongplay.uk.
Fantastic. And, get in touch. Let us know what you think of the album. If you think there's something that we need to be adding into the mid-month missives, send us them and make sure you sign up. But, yeah, we can't wait to spend this month listening to Television.
Marquee Moon.
Marquee Moon. Hang on, wait, which is the band? The band's called Television.
Yeah, exactly.
That felt confusing for a minute. But without further ado, it leaves me to say, no skipping.
No shuffling.